So let us start this session by listening to 3 sounds of the bell. Today's bell master is Rie from Lower Hamlet, and she's from Japan. So we can relax our body. You can close your eyes if you like, and just allow the sound of the bell to penetrate into each cell of our body. So we listen not only through our ears, but we listen with our whole body, our whole being, and just allow whatever it is that's there in us to be there, and we smile. Dear respected Thay, dear beloved community, good morning. Today is the 10th of November in the year 2022, and we're in the Assembly of Stars Meditation Hall in Lower Hamlet of Plum Village, France. And I believe we're in the 9th week of the Rains Retreat. We are in a 90-day Rains Retreat for our friends who are new this week. And we have 5 weeks left, so that means we already finished 2/3 of the retreat. Yeah, time flies, right? Yeah. And November 10th, this day also means a lot to our community. When we have our loved ones, our family members, dear friends, we always remember their birthdays, and if our loved one has passed away already, we also remember the day they transitioned, and we take a moment to invite them in our heart. And in our tradition, we also like to prepare some special dish the person liked, and then we offer it to the altar. And just to spend some time with them, and to remember their what they have offered to us in our life. And you might be wondering, okay, who passed away today? No one passed away on, no one that I know of, passed away on November 11th, but November 10th, is a significant day in our calendar for many of Thai students, because it's the day Thay had a stroke in 2014, so 8 years ago. Our teacher's health was declining rapidly that year, but then he has so much bodhicitta, so much energy, wanting to offer to teach and to help as many people as possible. So even though his health was declining, he kept going out on tours. I think that year, in the spring, he went to Spain, and in the summer we had the big retreats, 21-day retreat, summer retreat, and he also went to Germany to teach for German-Dutch retreat. But after that, I think he was really exhausted. And in the fall of 2014, we could see that he was really weak. And in order to check and see how everything is. Our teacher was hospitalized to have a checkup, to have a complete checkup in Bordeaux. And one day, on the 10th of November, we received a phone call from Thai's attendants in Bordeaux hospital to say, oh, our teacher just had a stroke. And the doctors there, they were quite sure that, oh, I think he doesn't have many hours left, so you better come and say goodbye. So the next day, all of us, we got in our vans, and the whole community basically went to this hospital in Bordeaux, and not to disturb the hospital and also our teacher who was in coma at the moment, we divided up into small groups of 4 or 5, and we took turn to go visit the room where our teacher was resting in the hospital. And that was a very emotional moment for all of us. And our teacher was in coma. He looked like he was sleeping very peacefully. And we took turn to spend a few minutes by his side to have intimate conversation in silence. And we held his hands and to share our gratitude and also to say goodbye in the spirit of no coming and no going. But then, as you all know, our teacher continued to live for 8 more years. So that was a big surprise to the doctors in Bordeaux because they are specialized in what they do, and they saw that this man, he's in his late 80s, very frail looking, and he just had a stroke, and he's not waking up. So for them, like they were sure, okay, they just have maybe maximum few days, but it's not likely that he would survive. But to the doctor's surprise and to everybody's amazement, Thay just kept breathing peacefully. And I think he didn't open his eyes for maybe 2 weeks, but his breathing was very steady. He was just there lying in hospital bed, breathing. And to check his oxygen level, the nurses came with special machine to check the oxygen level. Of course, another thing was not only did he have a stroke, but one of his lungs collapsed. So he was breathing only with one lung, basically. At the time, he had lung infection. And when the nurses came to check his oxygen level, it was very good. And he was breathing like a normal person, normal healthy person, according to this machine. And the nurses were like, no, this cannot be true. The machine must be broken. Something's wrong. So they checked the machine, and I don't know if they brought a new machine or not, but they checked his breathing again. And again, Thai's breathing was perfectly normal, like a healthy person, or even better. His oxygen level was like 100%. And the doctors and nurses are so amazed seeing this 80-something-year-old man breathing so calmly but so steadily. So we know that Thai's breathing saved his life in that moment. And that's not something that we can train ourselves to do. We cannot say, oh, I'm still young, I don't need to worry about it, or I'm too busy right now, I don't have time to focus on breathing and meditation full time, so I'll start when I retire. Basically, it's too late if you start when you are getting close to that age. And Thay ordained when he was 16, and then he met the sutra, the discourse on full awareness of breathing. And when he was in his 20s, when he was also going through a lot of difficulties and depression because of the war that was happening and all kinds of other challenges that he was facing. And through this method of breathing, mindful breathing, he discovered that he can restore himself, he can give life to himself, and overcome any difficulties, any difficult emotions, just by mastering our own breathing. So then he spent his entire life teaching everybody around the world, regardless of religion. It's not only for Buddhists. And it doesn't matter what your background is. He discovered this is something we can all learn and we can really apply to our daily life to save our lives. In this case, so this is a very good example of how your own breathing, your own daily practice of mindful breathing can save your life one day. But as good practitioners, we all know we don't practice in order to achieve something, right? We practice because we know this is the only moment that we are alive. And by practicing mindful breathing, like in this very moment, we can enjoy being with our body, being truly present for ourselves. Because that's what meditation is. I think there are so many definitions of meditation. But for me, meditation is, first of all, to offer myself the true presence, to be here for myself, so I know what's going on in my body, in my mind, in my feelings, and take good care, so that I can also take good care of all the people that I love who are around me. And not only the people, the Mother Earth. I think we all have good intention to want to do good for the world. But if we don't know how to take care of ourselves first, if we don't know ourselves, if we didn't take the time to get to know ourselves good in a way that, what is our deepest aspiration? What do I really want to do with this life? We might have 40, 50, 100 years to live, but the days go by very quickly. And then we might feel like, oh, I lived my life without any meaning. So being here for ourselves, that is the meditation. And I just gave an example of how our own breathing can save our life one day, if you're in this kind of situation. But also, I think in our daily interaction too, just mastering our breathing can save us from so many situations, because as human beings, we have all kinds of emotions. And when we live together, when we interact with each other, we help each other to practice in a way that we are mirrors for each other, and we can also trigger all kinds of feelings for each other, right? So then maybe there might be feelings of irritation or anger or sadness. So something that somebody say might touch your very deep wound, and you just never know when that strong emotion might arise. But if we try to practice only in that moment, it's very, very difficult. So that's why it's really good to just, when nothing's happening, when everything's peaceful, on a normal day, and we just practice. Because then, when the strong emotion comes, we feel confident, right now I'm really angry, I'm really irritated, and I'm about to say something to somebody to punish the other person, but thanks to my breathing, I can stop, I can come back, and I can take care of my feeling first. And once you're able to do that, you'll be very confident in your own ability to take refuge in your own mindful breathing. So I think many of you have already heard about this mindful breathing and the discourse on mindful breathing, full awareness of breathing, Anapanasati Sutta many times, but I'd like to do a quick review. And just to refresh this practice for those of us who have listened to it 10 times, 20 times, 100 times, because this is the foundation of Plum Village practice. So this is something our teacher also taught in every retreat. It's something that was repeated many, many times, because it doesn't matter how many times we listen to it, we still need to be reminded to come back to our breathing, to continue our practice. But normally, I think you've all seen this. So the full awareness breathing has 16 different parts, and we tend to divide in 4. The first 4 is to practice with our body, the second 4 with the emotion, and the third set of 4 exercise to observe our mental formations, and the last 4 with object of our mind. So then normally we go 1, 2, 3, 4. But I'm going to try something different today. And this is something that just came up in my sitting meditation this morning. So let's see, it's very fresh. It's still very hot from the oven. This was a good example of, like, every day when you wake up, I don't know, maybe most of you are more diligent than me, but there's a split second after waking up, I ask myself, do I go to sitting or do I need extra sleep? Do you have that? No? Okay. Yeah, so because, sleeping is also good for our health and to take care of our body, and often we feel sleep deprived. So there are days I wake up and I feel tired, and maybe my body needs sleeping more than sitting. So that there's always that split second, but actually I'm here to practice, and sitting is the foundation of our practice, and especially we are in Rain's retreat. I have no excuse not to go to sitting. And then it's a little bit like practicing yoga. My yoga teacher in the past used to tell me, get into the yoga mat, that's 90% of the work. Once you get there, rest is easy. It's a little bit like that for me with sitting meditation. There's that internal conversation. Do I go sitting or do I rest? But like once I make myself go, and once I'm there in the meditation hall, I'm always very, very happy just entering the hall, seeing everybody sitting there, with the candles lit, with the incense. The atmosphere is so serene. And when I sit, I always enjoy sitting. And after sitting meditation, I'm always happy that I sat. So, yeah. So this morning, I was really happy that because I was in my bed. I'm giving the talk this morning, so maybe if I sleep extra 45 minutes, maybe I feel more fresh for my talk. But I could see that was my manas consciousness speaking. So I said, okay, I just go sitting. So anyway, so the 16 breathing exercises. The first one, you all know, right? Breathing in, I know I am breathing in. Breathing out, I know I am breathing out. So the first exercise, to just simply coming back to our breathing and to know, to remind ourselves, I am breathing in, I am breathing out. To recognize our in-breath and out-breath. That's all. It's very simple. Right? So I'm going to, let's see, draw this. So this is in, out. Right. Okay, there's a reason why I'm writing this down below. The second exercise is breathing in. I follow my in-breath all the way from its beginning to the end. Breathing out, I follow my out-breath all the way from its beginning to the end. So by following our in-breath and out-breath without distraction, without any thinking disturbing us, we are cultivating the energy of concentration. By coming back to our body and being aware that we are breathing in, breathing out, we are cultivating the energy of mindfulness. And by staying with our breathing, we are also cultivating the energy of concentration. Right. So, So that's the second exercise. And the third exercise is breathing in. I bring my attention to my whole body. And we kind of combine the third and fourth in the way we practice usually. With the in-breath, we come back to our body. We are aware of our body. And then the fourth exercise, breathing out. I am aware of my body and I relax my body. I calm my body. I release the tension in my body. Right? So the three is aware. And the fourth. Okay, so that's the first 4 exercise of mindful breathing. Coming back to our body and just recognizing whatever is happening in our body and smiling, releasing, letting go of whatever that tension that we're holding. And if there's also pain in our body, being aware that there's pain in my body and gently embracing that pain, that's also calming the body. And we continue on to the realms of feelings. And fifth is, let's see, let me see, how am I going to do this? Okay. 5, 6. And first we bring our attention to the positive feeling that we have. Breathing in, I am in touch with the feeling of joy, or with my breathing, I generate the feeling of joy in myself. And the 6th is continuing on with joy. Breathing in, I am in touch with the feeling of happiness. Breathing out, I feel happy. So joy is a kind of energy. It's very, joy and happiness, they're very similar, but joy still has more, little bit of feeling of excitement. And happiness is more like contentment, or feeling like, there's nothing lacking, everything's okay. And then after that, okay, let's stop there. So sometimes when we hear about this different way of breathing, we tend to categorize them. Okay, right now I'm doing number 1, I'm doing number 2, and so on. And that's also okay. We need to know what we're doing. But the way I like to practice is I like to build on each exercise. So first, I always start with breathing in. I know I'm breathing in. Breathing out. I know I'm breathing out. And I just continue this breathing. And I just continue on. And then on top of that, I will build the next exercise, following my in-breath, following my out-breath, to cultivate my energy of concentration. Okay. So, and then I go on to the next one, being aware of my body and calming my body. And calming. So as I move through the exercises, I'm not like done with the other ones, the previous ones. I'm not only focusing on this, but by focusing on the calming my body exercise, that exercise depends on the quality of how I build and how I practice the other 3. And I continue on with the joy. When my body is relaxed, then I can also come in touch with my feelings feelings of joy, and I build joy, and then there's happiness. So that's breathing exercise from 1 through 6. And you know what comes next, right? It's breathing in. I'm aware of my mental formations. Breathing out, I calm my mental formations. So just as we did with our body, or being aware of what's happening in our body, are we holding any tension? Do we have any pain in our body? And then intentionally calming, relaxing. We do the same with what's happening in our mind and with our feelings. If there are some difficult feelings that's inside of us, whether that's sadness or anger or despair. So all of that, we come back and we are aware that it's there. And then we breathe out, and then we stay with it, and we embrace it, recognize its presence, and just gently embrace it. And I realized that before we look deeply into any difficulty that we have inside of ourselves, before we do the big surgery, it's very, very important that we have this foundation of 1 through 6. So if we feel like we don't have enough stability, we don't have enough joy, we don't have enough happiness in ourselves, I would not recommend for you to look deeply into your deep wound from your childhood, for example, in your sitting meditation. So, because then you don't have the container to hold whatever that rises up, because that pain might be very, very big, and we need strong energy to hold that in ourselves. So then I realized, by building like this, bit by bit, it's a little bit like I'm falling. So this is me having despair, anger, something, strong emotion, and I feel like I'm falling, and then but there's enough water below of me, whether that's a lake or river, like it's safe to jump into it, into my own energy, because there's enough depth. When I do my number 7, that's number 7. Aware. Mental formation. Okay, calming and calming. Yeah. So, what is really dangerous, that what could be dangerous in our practice, if you don't build this foundation and you don't have this enough depth of water to take refuge in. So if you are just doing in and out, okay, I'm with my body, okay, let's go and look into the difficulties I have from my childhood. And when you try to dive in here, like in this point, right? You can kind of get hurt. It could be very bad injury. So this is what I realized, that each of our breath, mindful breathing, and daily exercises of just being aware of a breathing throughout our day, no matter what we are doing, and bit by bit, it's like a drop of water. Our breathing is, and each mindful breath, it really counts. We don't lose any of it. And every time we were able to come back to our body and be aware of our breathing, we are collecting this energy of mindfulness drop by drop, and slowly filling up our lake that contains energy of mindfulness. So when we want to really understand ourselves, understand our parents, and understand our ancestors, and what's happening in the whole world, we are able to just dive in with confidence. Okay, now I have enough stability. Now I have enough energy of mindfulness that's going to catch me even if I just dive in from my head in. And I know I'm going to be okay because the water is there. There's plenty of water there for me to be able to swim. So this is something that came up in my mind, and because I love swimming, so I'm sorry if you're afraid of water, it's not a good example. So this is for those who like to swim, who enjoy swimming in the summer. If this example doesn't work for you, if you really don't like to swim and you're afraid of water, you can think of it as like thread, maybe, because you can think of it as like you're weaving a net, right? So you're weaving a nice big net that's going to catch you when you fall from a cliff, so you know that you're safe. So you're being caught by the net of your mindful energy or something like that. So, okay. So now we can listen to one sound of the bell. Okay, so now I'd like to move into the topic that I was originally going to talk about before I came up with this, which is, it's called balancing the four spiritual pillars. How many of you are familiar with the term four spiritual pillars? Very few of you. Okay. This is a teaching that Thay, our teacher, he gave us to monastic students many, many times. But I don't know, for some reason, it didn't come up so much in his talks for our friends. And this is something, a teaching that I really take to my heart. And it's something that I feel like I really benefited from. And I feel like even though he was giving the teachings to monastic students living in a monastery, I think it also applies to everybody, whether you're monastics or lay. So I'd like to share with you this teaching. Okay. So let me try this. Okay. I was trying to decide how do I want to draw four pillars, and the four squares seem so boring, so I decided to go for the four-leafed clovers, because then you can also keep this image, and you know that it's something you can keep in your pocket wherever you are, and no matter what you're doing. This is something you can apply. So the four pillars, the first one, of course, is practice, right? practice. And the second pillar is study or learning. And the third pillar is service. Or working, same thing. And the fourth one might be a surprise to some. Can you guess what the fourth might be? Yes. Good. Playing. Yeah, so this is the 4 pillars of spiritual life. And if you want to continue on your path for a long time, and feeling balanced, feeling happy on your path, it's really good to check in with ourselves to see if these 4 elements are in balance. And I asked my elder sisters, where does this teaching come from? Because in Buddhism, there's like 4 this, 3 that, 6 this, these numbers for diligence, for noble truth, and what else? Yeah, 4 elements of true love. Many things come in set of 4. So when I first heard this teaching, I thought, it must be based on some sutra. But apparently not. And this is something Thay came up with. And he started teaching his monastic students in the 90s. So I think it's just Thay's pure insight. And I ordained in 2009. And until Thay stopped teaching in 2014. So 5 years, I received many teachings on monastic days for monastic-only talks. And I remember Thay repeating this teaching many, many times. And often, the teaching came up, this is according to my memory, is that when especially after summer retreat, here in Plum Village, we have retreats all year round, and summer is the biggest one. Right? We have thousands of friends coming here for 4 weeks, non-stop, and their families and children running around everywhere. We're in team program, and it's very joyful. But of course, at the same time, it's a lot of work for the monastics. And we're cooking for hundreds of people every day, and it's hot, and just making sure the toilets don't break down, and housekeeping, and children getting injured, and all kinds of things happen in summer. So it's quite a lot of juggling things, and usually after summer retreat, some monastics either write letters to Thay or go talk to Thay when they feel like they need a consultation. And some of them would say, Thay, I didn't ordain to do this. Like, we're too busy. Like, I have no time to practice. And I'm still young on my path, and there's so much to study and learn, all these sutras we need to learn. And we have no time to study in our schedule, and there's no time to sit quietly. There's just only work, and work, right? So then Thay would usually give this teaching when usually like 1, monastics feeling burnt out from work, 2, like studious monastics saying, I want to go to a Buddhist university to deepen my understanding of Buddhism because I feel like I'm not getting what I need here. And the 3 is somebody who's more into deep, quiet meditation, saying there's not enough calmness here. It's so busy and noisy, too many people. I need quietness to really deepen my meditation practice. And asking Thay if they could go to another tradition in which you'd spend more time sitting in silence. So whenever Thay hears this kind of feedback from his students, and he would go into the teaching of balancing the 4 pillars. And Thay said, if you're an intelligent practitioner, you don't divide. This is my study time. This is my meditation time, practice time, and this is my work time. Because actually, we are trained to look at everything with the eyes of interbeing, right? everything contains everything else. So in the light of interbeing, even when you feel like you're doing service for the Sangha or you're doing your work, work is made up of all the other elements, the elements of practice, study, play, and vice versa. Everything else is made up of non-that element, right? So, and this is something like basically we all have to go through as novice training here in Plum Village, to not to be caught in dividing, this is my time, this is me time, my personal time, and this is the time for the Sangha, or this is the time I do my work for the Sangha, or this is the time I go to the schedule. Because throughout the day, everything is in the schedule, and whether you enjoy working or not, or whether you enjoy your service time or not, or even if you have to do service outside of your service time, anyway, it's your time, right? Because like I'm the only one experiencing whatever that's happening. So whether I think of it as my time or time for other people, it's all my time. So if I want to enjoy my life as a monastic, I need to learn how to enjoy whatever that I'm doing and not to discriminate between this is my personal time, I do what I want to do. I play, I want to study, or I want to focus on my practice. But there's no division between this is my time and this is time for the Sangha, because Sangha is me, and there's not like me as an individual practicing. And if that's the case, there's no Plum Village. We are one big organism, and each one of us is a cell of this organism. So whenever, whatever it is that work needs to be done, that I can make myself be available, and I can be happy to do that work. Yeah, and then that finding joy in the work, that's really the key, right? So how can we make, if we are not enjoying the work that we are doing, and we feel like we need to wait for that to be done in order to go and enjoy drinking a cup of tea, or go and enjoy going for a walk, or play, or to read my favorite book. So if I'm not enjoying the work I am given by the Sangha, like what can I do to make that time more enjoyable? And how can I make that time into time of practice? And actually, no matter what we're doing, we can turn that time into time of practice, right? Because that is the engaged Buddhism. The meditation doesn't only happen on sitting mat in meditation hall. Wherever we are, whatever we're doing, that is meditation. But for that action to become a meditative experience, we need to know how to apply the practice of meditation. And it's not about not talking to other people, practicing noble silence, and that just take it very seriously or something like that. It's not that. But for an action in our daily life to become practice, first of all, it's just exactly what we just learned, the first 4 exercise of mindful breathing, right? We need to be always aware of our breathing, whatever we're doing, right? Sometimes in the past, when we were cooking for Day of Mindfulness, Thay would arrive in the hamlet, and he would just walk through the kitchen just to see how everybody's doing. And then he would ask you, Con, he said, my child, what are you doing? And somehow it almost kind of became like a like insider joke, because we all knew what Thay wants to hear, which is, yes, Thay, I'm breathing. And I know I'm breathing. Because if you don't know, you'd be like, yeah, Thay, I'm cutting the carrots. Can't you see them cutting carrots? It's so obvious, right? But actually, when Thay comes and asks you, what are you doing? That's a reminder. Are you aware that right now you're breathing? So it's not so much of a question. It's like Thay's trying to remind you, are you aware that you're breathing right now? Are you aware that you're practicing right now? Yeah. So being aware of breathing, no matter what we are doing, being aware of our body, no matter what we are doing. So we are not accumulating tension and waiting for after work time in order to release our tension. We can be releasing the tension in our body while we are working. So if you have this mind of wanting to get done as quickly as possible, and then that the mindset will create tension in our body. So of course we have deadlines. I mean, we have to have the meal on the table at the right moment for our community. At the same time, we know that we can enjoy and relax what we are doing, whatever it is, washing pots, cleaning toilets, cutting vegetables, or working at the computer, which I find is the most challenging because you use so much of your mind. So if it helps, in our monastery, we have the bell sound everywhere. We hear the activity bell, and we have the dining room clock that chimes every 15 minutes. Right now in New Hamlet, we have dining room clock and sanitizing area clock and kitchen clock, and they're all slightly off from each other. So we have a lot of opportunities to breathe. Yeah, so that's something, if you want to apply this practice at your home or in your work environment, and it really helps to have a clock, or just download the mindful bell on your phone. Yeah, and if every 15 minutes is challenging, you can also just select for every half hour or every hour. Even if you are able to take 3 deep breaths to relax your body every hour, that will make a huge difference if make that into your daily habit. So in order for the work to become practice, so that's the first step, to apply the first 4 practices of mindful breathing, coming back to breathing, being aware of body, and releasing tension. And the second element that's really important for me, from my experience, is monotasking. So it's the opposite of multitasking. And we all know that our teacher's name, right? Our teacher's name is Nhật Hân, which means one action, right? So this is a good reminder, one action at a time. And we know that somehow when we think, we have so much to do in our life, that we need to do things, we have so many things we want to do, and there's enough time, we tend to think, we can save time by multitasking, like eating, and at the same time reading all the messages on the phone, and so on. But when we look back at how much our teacher was able to accomplish throughout his life, I mean, it's incredible what he has done. Like in the past in Vietnam, I mean, he was a prolific writer, and he could write about any subject: politics, science, religion, art, history, and he wanted to write about his insight through these different domains in the magazines. But it looked strange to have a magazine with different articles, all authored by Thich Nhat Hanh, right? So then he would come up with all these different pen names. So you think it's a magazine written by so many different people, but in fact it was all Thay who wrote different articles. Yeah. That's just one example, but I mean, we all know how much he was able to accomplish in his lifetime, and he never multitasked. He never tried to do 2 things at once. Always just focused on one thing. Yeah, so we know that it really works. And this is a challenging practice. I'm still not there yet. I also often have the tendency to think, I can save time by doing this and that, and so on. But yeah, I'm still practicing with it. And when I'm able to just focus on one thing, I can see that I can really enjoy what I'm doing. And I can, it's like a gift for myself as well, because when I'm really focused on the task that's right in front of me, without any distraction, I enjoy being connected to whatever that I'm doing, whether writing an email or cutting vegetables or washing my dishes. And I can be really aware of all the movement that I'm making with my fingers, with my whole body. And and it just feels very good to be really present for myself and be connected. And I can also see, and as I develop this practice more and more for myself, when other people are practicing the same way, I can recognize right away, and I really appreciate it. And it was very interesting. Let me put a cap on this so it doesn't dry up. Yeah, one day I was at a supermarket in Bordeaux. We need to renew our carte de séjour to stay in France every year. So earlier, this fall, I think it was in September, I was in Bordeaux. And next to the prefecture, and there's a big shopping mall with a supermarket. And so after we finished what we need to do, and then a few of us, we had to go buy some things for the Sangha, so we went to this supermarket. And it was quite early in the morning and not so busy. And I bought a few things. And there was a young man who was a cashier. And I was so touched because, I've gone through many cashiers in many supermarkets. Usually, they just scan your things, scan, throw, right? Do it very quickly. But his movement was so mindful. And I don't know, and he looked like just a young person, maybe 20 or even teenager. But he would take each item and then scan, and then he would put it down with so much gentleness. And I was like, wow. And then, but I was just impressed, but I didn't say anything to him in that moment. But then after I left, I was thinking, I should have asked him, do you know mindfulness practice? And I was so curious, but then, and now I don't even remember what he looked like exactly. So I don't think I can recognize him, even if I went back to the same supermarket. But I was feeling really touched because it was not in the monastery setting, and I assume most people outside working, they don't know the teaching, but the way his hands moved, and he would place each item very gently. And one of the items was in a glass jar, and with the glass jar, he was extra careful in placing it. I was like, wow, and just a little gesture like that, it makes you feel very touched, and there's so much energy of peace and calm and care. So so this cashier, he really inspired me to also practice like that as much as I can. I often forget because I have tendency to do things very quickly, but that was very inspiring to bring that care to my movement, as well as the thing that I'm in contact with, and also for the person in front of me. And that is the practice of offering our genuine quality presence for each other. So let us listen to one more sound of the bell, and we can enjoy our breathing. So that's a little bit on how we can make any chores or work that we do in our daily life into a moment of meditation practice. And now I'd like to move to the domain of play, playing. It's a translation from the word, I think Thay taught this teaching in Vietnamese, and joy. Joy is, a direct translation is play, but actually in English, when we say, oh, we should play more, and it sounds a little bit strange, because also for me, like before I got to know this language in Plum Village, whenever I heard brothers and sisters say like, oh, let's go play, we need to play more. It's like, what are we gonna play with? Like, like, like play games and yeah. But what we mean is just like hanging out, spending time with each other. So it doesn't always have to be like play. You don't have to play sports or play music in order to play. So of course, any of those things can be play. But when we use the word play, just doing something together or even by yourself, spending time with yourself, spending time with each other. So drinking tea is also a form of play in Plum Village tradition. There are many ways to play. Going for a walk together. Actually, doing nothing together is also playing. Yeah. So anything that can cultivate your feeling of joy, relaxation, where you feel more recharged after doing that thing, and I think you can consider as something that we play with. And this is something, believe it or not, our teacher often emphasized when he gave teachings for business people in companies. Because in a very stressful work environment, we think the playing is the last thing you want to do because that you don't want to waste your time playing, right? There's so much to do. But as adults, when we don't play enough, when we don't have fun with others, we can slowly feel disconnected with others, and that can create more tension at our workplace. So by sharing about how we can turn our work time into practice by being aware of our breathing, being aware of our body, of our movement, being aware of whatever is happening within us, that is our own practice. Each one of us can do, and nobody else needs to know. We just cultivate that for ourselves. But sometimes the work element in our life can be a drag, it can be a headache, it can be the big cause of suffering in our lives. And not because the work itself is problematic, not because we don't like the work, but it's the interpersonal relationships at workplace that creates so much stress. Working with other people, having conflicts and competitions and not being understood, not having good communication. So if we don't know how to work with others, it's very difficult to create work into something that's enjoyable. So in order to turn working experience into joyful, fun experience and also practice, we need to cultivate the art of playing with our colleagues. Yeah. And I think now that there's more and more understanding and awareness of neuroscience, I think more scientists also, they're encouraging people in the work setting to play more with each other. Because whenever we're just enjoying something together, being silly together, when we are able to laugh together, and then somehow our barriers removed, we are able to take off the armor. So whereas if you go into a meeting room with your own set of agendas, and you have a room full of colleagues, and we need to compete for ideas to get through, and it's very easy to put on this armor of like wanting to prove ourselves and make sure the other person will also agree with you. And yeah, we just go into a meeting room or workplace with this state of fight or flight, right? We're ready to fight. But if you've already had time to play with each other, and if you are able to laugh with each other, do something silly together, and then next day when you go into the meeting room, the atmosphere will be completely different because you feel safe, right? You're able to relax because you shared something together. And together we can create this space of safety, and we can share whatever we want to share. And somehow when our ideas are rejected, we don't feel like our whole being is rejected, right? Like it's just an idea, and it's so much easier to have discussion with open heart without feeling like, oh, my idea was rejected, therefore I'm not validated, I don't want to work with these people, they don't accept me, and so on, and you start to create all kinds of ideas. So when we can feel safe in the work environment, we can share different ideas, and any organization to grow, including our monastery, Plum Village, we have many, many meetings about many different topics. Yeah, and we have in meetings, we are encouraged to share our ideas and also to let go of our ideas, because in order for any organism to grow, we need to have different ideas. We need to challenge each other's ideas. And if everybody agreed with each other all the time, we will not grow as a community, as an organization. So it's very important to have conflicting ideas, and there needs to be a space where we can share that without feeling threatened, with confidence that we know that we are sharing from the good intention of wanting the best for our whole community. And I also learned when I was young, I saw when I came into meeting, it looked like my elder sisters were arguing with each other, and it made me feel very uncomfortable, because I thought, oh, we're supposed to be like living in harmony with each other, in peace, and there's like argument, and this is not peaceful, and there's no harmony. And I told one elder sisters, I don't feel comfortable with this. And then this elder sister was like, who said there's no harmony? We're just having disagreement. There is harmony. And that's true. Yeah, just because there's disagreement, it doesn't mean that there's no harmony. And there should be, in true harmony, there should be space for disagreements, for everybody to express themselves, their vision, their ideas and feelings. Yeah. And it's also important to let go at the end. Yeah. So this playing element. And just as an example, in New Hamlet, we decided to have Halloween be in. That was really fun. We don't do this every year. It's just that somehow the conditions came together. And in our meeting, also in the Bhikshuni meeting, when we discussed, somebody said, oh, let's have a Halloween party. And then somebody else said, no, we are like Buddhist monastery. I don't know if that's appropriate. So we had this discussion, and in the end we agreed that this is an opportunity to cultivate joy and sisterhood. Yeah, and then it falls in the right time. When we look at the calendar, there is space for it on the Monday evening on a lazy day. So we said, okay, let's do it. And there was so much joy, and also among our long-term friends, they were very creative in digging through the recycling areas to come up with zero waste costumes. And we had costume contest, and we had dancing, singing, and our friends, and also our elder, senior sisters also dancing, and that always brings so much joy for young ones, because. I don't know, I guess I'm kind of middle-aged, but for younger sisters, sometimes they feel a little bit scared of our elder sisters, because their elder sisters will give you reminders about the way to practice, and sometimes you're scolded about something that they've done. And so, when the elder sisters and younger sisters can just be silly and dance together, it's really a very beautiful moment, and everybody enjoys. And actually, before we decided to have the Halloween. Oh, so we decided to have Halloween like 2 weeks in advance. But then like 2 days before that day, we received the news about what happened in Korea. A very tragic accident on the street with lots of young people. They were partying on Halloween weekend, and 150 young people died. So when we received the news, we also discussed among the elder sisters, also listening to younger sisters, do we still want to celebrate Halloween? Is that appropriate? But in the end, we decided, yes, we still celebrate. We still enjoy this moment of being together, but we can do it in a spiritual way, in a way that we can also offer our respect and our compassion for what has just happened. So it's not like we don't care what happened, we just continue with our party. We consider everything that's happening around us. And also in the evening of Halloween being, we took a moment. Sister Chang Kong was present also, and we also took a moment to send our energy of prayer, to send our energy of peace and compassion to the victims of the tragic accident that had just taken place. And this is also something we can remember, because sometimes there's so many things happening in the world, and there are wars happening, and people dying hunger, natural disasters, and sometimes it comes up in our mind. It's like, is it okay for me to be feeling so much joy and just enjoying my life when there's so much suffering in the world? And is it okay? And I feel a little bit guilty, and we hear that from our friends quite often. But because of everything that's happening in the world, it's really important. And I think as practitioners, it's also our responsibility not to lose the joy, not to lose the happiness and peace. And that energy we can send out to the world. And no matter how happy we are or how excited we are, as practitioners, we don't lose ourselves in excitement. We always keep in mind that we are part of this world. There's always suffering happening somewhere in the world. And whether our family members, somebody close to us, or somewhere far on the other side of the planet, we know that there's always suffering, but still we continue to live and we continue to cultivate joy and happiness, because that also nourishes us. That gives us the stability and the strength we need in order to be an instrument of peace, an instrument of service to help others. So it's really important that we don't lose this capacity to cultivate joy and happiness in ourselves. And this is a calligraphy you find in Thai's hut, in still sitting hut in Upper Hamlet, if you go into his hut one day. I think also our lay friends are invited to go visit from time to time. You can ask our abbot, Brother Phaphu, if you like to go visit Thai's hut to pay respect. This calligraphy, our Japanese and Chinese friends can read. It's the joy of meditation as food. So when we practice, that is our joy. So whether we're in the mode of service or working, or when we're playing, or when we're studying, everything is practice, everything is meditation. And that is the joy that we cultivate through our own practice. And that is our food food is something that gives us energy to continue. That is the source of our energy. So we also receive questions like, oh, I don't have enough energy to practice. I feel so tired. I feel so exhausted. And we can remember that through our own practice, we can generate this energy of joy, of practice, to serve and to be with others, to connect, and also to study, to discover, to progress on this path. And that is something that we don't depend on others to give it to us, but it's something that we can generate for ourselves, this nutriment, the food, the energy that we need in order to continue on this path. And we know that in the Zen tradition, there's so much emphasis on tea drinking and tea meditation. And we also talk about that a lot in our tradition. And I believe the New Hamlet, I think Sister Dinyam just offered a session of tea meditation. So drinking tea, and it doesn't have to be tea, it could be coffee also, or anything. Drinking tea together, it's also a very important part of our practice. And I just heard something that was interesting, because everything has a reason, right? And then my left brain always like to find some kind of scientific reason for the things we do. And I just heard that actually when we have a warm cup of tea in our hand, that warmth, our brain cannot differentiate the difference between the physical warmth and the interpersonal warmth that we feel with the person sitting in front of us. So that's another thing that we can remember in order to build harmonious relationship and to feel safe with each other, to create a safe working place. We can invite each other to drink tea more often, to hold that warm cup of tea in our hand and spend that time together, whether in silence or we can also create a moment of sharing from our heart. So I hope that's a very easy practice that you can bring home. I know some of you really feel excited about this practice and you want to bring it home and you want to share it with your family and your friends and your colleagues, but you also don't want to be like weird after coming back from a monastery. Let's do slow walking meditation, one breath, one step. So you don't want to scare your friends who don't know anything about this practice. So drinking tea together is a really easy and simple and natural way to share the practice, just inviting somebody to drink tea together and just have the feeling the warmth with each other and also to offer our true presence for the other person. That'd be a greatest gift. It's much, much better than talking about what you learned in Plum Village. They can watch YouTube videos and read books to know everything about Plum Village and the teaching of Buddhism if they want. But when you come back after a monastery, after a retreat, and then when you can offer your true presence, be there for your friend, for your family, and they will really wonder, wow, what did you do this past week? And they will really appreciate that. Because as human beings, we all have the need to be recognized, to be seen, to be heard by others. And often we are not able to offer that for others because, first of all, we are not able to offer that for ourselves because we are not truly present. So by being able to offer ourselves true presence, to really see ourselves, to really hear what's in our heart, and then we can also offer the gift for others, so we can really see the other person, hear the other person, and they can feel that they are being seen and heard. And sometimes that's all we need. A lot of the time, very like a trivial arguments that happen between your family members and with our colleagues. It just comes out from the feeling of not feeling recognized or not having had enough attention from somebody. So we create something like a sharp words to say to the other person. But often what we are saying underneath is that, look, I'm here. You don't see me. You don't hear me. I'm trying to get your attention. So when we can offer that to each other, and we can actually prevent many, many arguments and conflicts, that's really not necessary. Yeah. So a little bit about work. So now you have, let's say you've mastered bringing the practice into your work, into what you're doing, and you've also mastered being there for each other. You've mastered your mindful communication with your colleagues. You have great relationships with your colleagues, and everything seems fine. But I'm not sure if this is what I'm meant to be doing. I don't know if this is my mission or what I'm meant to do in this life. And I know that because I think I was one of those people who came to the retreat more than maybe 14, 15 years ago. And I know that in this hall, I think many of you also have that thought. What should I do with my life? I know a number of you are thinking about maybe taking on the monastic path. And even if that's not in your thinking, maybe some of you are thinking, am I in the right profession? Do I need to change my job? I don't feel so fulfilled. And I feel like there's something else I need to be doing that's more meaningful, but I don't know what it is. So I think many of us have this thinking. If you don't, that's also wonderful. That's great. You feel like, yes, I feel like I'm doing the exact right thing that I'm meant to do. And that is such a great blessing. That's such a great source of happiness. So I'm very happy if you're feeling that way. It's also written in the Discourse on Happiness. Something like, what was it? Yeah, to be skilled in your profession, to have a vocation that brings you joy, that is the greatest happiness. Because we spend most of our waking hours working, doing something that's called our profession, our work, on average of 40 hours a week, I think. So if that 40 hours is spent on something that you feel passionate about and you really enjoy doing, that is a great source of happiness. But if you're wondering if I'm doing the right thing, and maybe I feel like there's something else out there, I feel like I haven't quite found my life's work. How can we find it out? And I think the most important thing is, again, coming back to ourselves and being our own best friend, spending time with yourself so that we can listen to our heart, because we are a product of our environment, our education, family background, our culture and society. So sometimes we think we know what we want to do, but it might not be our own voice. Maybe it's something that we've heard our parents say to us repeatedly, or what we think in terms of in society. In order to be a good citizen of this world, I need to do this kind of job. But it's not so much the job itself, but it's what matters is that our motivation behind it. So we say that in order for mindfulness to be the right mindfulness, it needs to contain all the other 7 elements from the Noble Eightfold Path. So sometimes we have a concern from friends saying that, oh, nowadays mindfulness is being used in military and all these big corporations, and it's being misused. Don't you worry about that? But Thay always said, no, we don't need to worry, because as long as it's the right mindfulness, then it will only bring compassion, more understanding, more love to the world. It will never be misused. So in order for the mindfulness to be right mindfulness, it is based on right view. That's right view is one of the 8 elements of Noble Eightfold Path. And right livelihood is also one of the 8 elements. So in order for us to have the right livelihood, it also needs to be based on right view. And what is right view? Right view is the view based on interbeing, that things don't exist separately from each other, that I am not a separate entity from everything else, everyone else. So whatever it is that our thinking, our actions, our decision about what kind of job to have, that if that is based on the right view, and we don't need to worry. So what are the decisions that's not based on right view? So if there's right view, there's usually wrong view, right? So wrong view, I think you can say it like this. So it's the opposite of interbeing. So wrong view is based on the idea of separate self. So whenever we are caught in the idea of separate self, and immediately the energy of self-preservation will come up. We need to protect the self. I need to take care of myself, and then there's self and others. So in order for me to protect my well-being, I might have to sacrifice something from the other person. I might have to take something from the other person. Or maybe I feel like there's a lack. So I need this, I need. So there's this, instead of feeling the deep interconnection with the world and the people around us, we are more concerned with just preservation of ourselves. And that could be, if it's not only yourself as an individual, you might also think of your own family. We only think about our own immediate family. Or maybe we only think about our own country. You don't care about what happens to other countries in the world. Or we also don't think about what happens to other species. We only think about what happens to human beings and the preservation of human species. So if what we are doing in a profession is going in that direction of separating ourselves from other species, from other nations, other people that are not our immediate blood family members, and so on. And then we know that that is ultimately causing ourselves suffering and also creating suffering for other beings. So we want to switch and find something, or even if you're doing the same thing, we want to approach it from the perspective of interbeing, that whatever I'm doing, it's doing good for myself as well as for the other people. So if what I'm doing is, it's only beneficial for myself or for a very small group of people, and I know that it's causing harm for others, then we know that that is not based on right view. And I see it's 11 o'clock, so I need to finish. Mm. Yeah, so I think I shared a lot about practice, service, work, and play, and study. And maybe some of you think like, oh, I already spent so many years studying really hard in schools, I don't need to study. So study doesn't mean just accumulating knowledge, but study, in this case, it's this feeling of making progress, whatever it is that we are doing, whether it's your own practice of mindfulness or your own profession, whatever that path that we are on, that we continue to feel like we're making progress day by day. Because without that, we will feel bored. I think maybe some of you might be feeling that in your work because you feel like you're not going anywhere. You don't feel like you're discovering something new. You don't feel like you're being challenged. You don't feel that you're discovering something new about yourself. But when we are able to, through whatever we are doing, discover something new about ourselves, first of all, and then we will immediately, it will lead to more curiosity, and that will also be a source of energy for us to progress on the path. And on that note, I like to read a little bit from our teacher's book, At Home in the World. I'm sorry, I didn't prepare the translation for our translators, so I will not read too much. So to summarize, I will summarize most part of this chapter. It's called A Classroom Dream. So one time when Thay was in his 60s, he had this one dream that gave him a lot of insight. And in the dream, he was a very young student, about 20 years old. And in the dream, he was at this very prestigious university. And when he arrived there, he saw many students. And one of the students looked just like Thay. He looked at him and he thought, oh, he looks just like me. Is that me? Or who is that? And at the front desk of the building, Thay asked the lady, and sitting there, she said, that guy over there, like, did he also get into this class that I'm going to? And then she said to him, no, it's only you. You are accepted into this advanced class, but not him. And then he continued on to the class, and he found out it was a music class. And suddenly he was asked to give presentation, and he panicked for a moment. He thought, oh, I don't play any musical instruments. How can I give a presentation? And then he suddenly remembered, oh, I have a bell in my pocket. So he took out his bell, and he was about to start his presentation about inviting the bell, and he woke up. So that was the dream in a nutshell. You can read more details in the book. So at the end, Thay says this. It seems that the young man who hadn't been accepted into the class was also me. Perhaps he was an earlier me, still caught in certain kinds of views and not yet free enough to be accepted into a master class. But I had grown and left him behind. I had attained some kind of insight that enabled me to free myself of attachment to views or whatever else it was that was still holding the young man back. Each of us may have views that we hold on to and consider to be the truth. And we are attached to those views. But if you get caught in your views, then you have no chance to progress. My dream was a reminder that sometimes I have to leave part of myself behind in order to be able to advance on my path. So this is something I practice each day to review my day at the end of the day. And when I wake up the next day, to say hello to new me. That's different from myself yesterday. And during this rains retreat, I have a routine. One day we will make nuns' morning routine and nighttime routine video, but we'll have all kinds of routines. So one of my routines is that at the end of the day, before going to bed, I have cups and like coffee sets and tea sets around my desk. And in the past, if I'm busy and I feel tired, I just leave everything and I think, oh, tomorrow morning, before I drink my tea, I will just wash them up. I don't need to wash it now. So I go to bed without washing my teapots or coffee sets. Then like one day I realized, actually, tomorrow's me is not today's me, and tomorrow's me is supposed to be a better version of me. So it's quite rude to leave dirty dishes for tomorrow's me to wash up. And I want tomorrow's me to have a nice experience when she wakes up in the morning. Just like, when you're with your elder sisters, or especially with Thay, you don't leave dirty dishes around, right? You always want to prepare everything with care and mindfulness and love. So I thought, why don't I do that to tomorrow's me? So this has been my practice. Before going to bed, I wash up everything and everything's ready. So when I wake up the next morning, I come to my desk and I can drink, I can enjoy. I can say thank you to yesterday's me for preparing teacups and pots beautifully, and I can enjoy a cup of tea in the morning to say hello to my new self in the morning. So thank you, dear friends, for listening today to the sharing. And to end this sharing, maybe you're wondering for the last hour and a half, okay, what's going to be at the end? So I'd like to invite my two lovely sisters to come up to offer the song. And I'm going to read the lyrics first, so that you don't have to listen to translation while listening to the music. Yeah. So this is a song written by Sister Tu Hieu in English and Vietnamese. It's called The Sun is Rising. The sun is rising. The new day is coming. I'm listening that the universe is moving. The birds are singing. The flowers are blooming. I'm breathing in, breathing out. Smile. To say hello to the life with all my mind. I want to say with my beloved one that I'm happy you are there for me, and I don't need to hurry to go wherever and to do whatever. Sit in peace and I am free. I have arrived and I am home. So okay, I see an empty seat, so I'm going to enjoy being in the audience. So let me also introduce my two dear sisters. They also happen to be my roommate, two roommates. And Sister Hien Tam on the cajon. Sister Hien Tam comes from Korea. And she used to have a very stressful job working as a TV producer in a big TV company in Korea. And I know many friends, we always receive, the question received the most often is like, how did you let go of your career to become a nun? So if you're curious, please listen to the podcast. The Way Out is In. I don't remember which episode it is, but the title is something like From High Fashion to Higher Purpose. Is that right? No, she's not the one who gave that title. It's the producer, but it's a lovely interview. And next to Sister Hien Tam, we have Sister Tu Hieu from Vietnam. Tu Hieu is also, as you know, it's the name of a root temple in Vietnam. And Sister Tu Hieu is a very talented singer. She's written many songs in Vietnamese and as well as in English. And she just arrived in Plum Village this year in the spring. And and there are two sisters who will offer the song, The Sun's Rising. So please enjoy.
The sun's rising, the new day's coming. I'm listening that the universe moving, the birds singing, the flower blooming. I'm breathing in, breathing out, smile to say hello to the life. When on my mind, I want to say with my beloved ones that I'm happy you're there for me, and I don't need to hurry to go wherever and to do whatever. Sit in peace and I am free. Mặt trời đang lên, một ngày mới đến. Ngồi đây tôi nghe mặt đất xôn xao khúc giờ. Đàn chim ca vang, những cánh hoa ngập tràn không gian. Thở bao thật trong, thở ra thật nhẹ. Mỉm cười để cùng chào đón ngày mới đang thức dậy với tất cả trái tim. Tôi muốn nói với tất cả mọi người tôi vui rất nhiều vì luôn ở đó bên tôi, và tôi cảm thấy mình chẳng cần phải vội vàng để đi bất cứ đâu và để làm bất cứ gì. Chỉ cần ngồi yên sẽ được tự do để cùng chào đón ngày mới đang thức dậy với tất cả trái tim. Tôi muốn nói với tất cả mọi người tôi vui rất nhiều vì luôn ở đó bên tôi, và tôi cảm thấy mình chẳng cần phải vội vàng để đi bất cứ đâu và để làm bất cứ gì, vì tôi đã về và đã tới. To say hello to the life without my mind. I want to say with my beloved ones that I'm happy you're there for me, and I don't need to hurry to go wherever and to do whatever. I have arrived and I am home. 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 I have arrived and I